It's all quiet in the underground bunker. Doors closed, locks bolted. But the Great One isn't just resting on his laurels. He's making sure your weekend is even better by giving you his best. This is the best of Mark Levin.
There's an effort to hijack the conservative movement. There's an effort to hijack MAGA. And I've told you before, I think MAGA, much of it, is the old Tea Party. And, of course, the conservative movement, constitutional conservatism, is the umbrella to Tea Party, MAGA, traditional conservatism, constitutionalism, and so forth. We have never stood for and never will stand for a defense of the Third Reich, attacks on Christians, attacks on Jews, attacks on our ally Israel. We can have differences of opinion, of course, but that's not what I'm talking about. I'm talking about the fundamentals. The fundamentals. We will never try to sabotage our movement from within. We are good people, patriotic people. We love our country. We know the real threats that face this country: illegal immigration, jihadi Islamism, economic socialism, ideological Marxism. We see the consequences all around us. From the George Soroses and the Mandamis, from the Bernie Sanders and the Talibs and Omars, and yes, from the woke right neo-fascists. They say they want to talk and debate, but they don't want to talk and debate. They want to control and devour, just like the Marxists and the Islamists. There's nothing to debate if you believe that Hitler had a few good points and that Churchill was the villain of World War II. There's nothing to debate. There's nothing to debate if you demand that Jews take DNA in order to determine if they're actually Jews. There's nothing to debate. There's nothing to debate if you sit on the sidelines while Erica Kirk is being brutalized by some of the most racist anti-Semites, and you sit silently and say nothing to a widow whose husband was assassinated 6-7 months ago. Nothing. And there's nothing to debate if your goal is actually to destroy MAGA and destroy the Republican Party and serve basically the interests of the Democrat Party. When you say MAGA's dead, the Republican Party should lose. You see, ladies and gentlemen, since I was 13 years old, a long time ago, I've been a conservative activist. And I've read and I've read and I've studied and I've studied and I've debated and I debated. Our movement, our liberty movement, has never faced anything like this before. The left is more extreme, more violent than ever. Ever. And then this neo-fascist right seeks to devour us from within, and now they're undermining the president, stabbing him in the back, and our military in the middle of a war. That's not who we are. That's never who we're going to be. There are some quislings in talk radio and elsewhere who throw up their hands and say, can't we just all get along? I would like us all to just get along. But if we just sit on the sidelines silently and throw our hands in the air and say, can't we just get all along, then we're going to lose. We're going to lose to the left, and we're going to lose to this virus, to this poison in our own midst. The Democrat Party should have stood up to the Marxists. The Democrat Party should have stood up to the Islamists. But it didn't. And now that's who they are. That's what they represent. Those of us who are Goldwaterites and Reaganites and Trumpites, those of us who were participants in the Tea Party movement, Convention of States, who pushed hard for the election of Donald Trump, those of us who backed the military and the police and loved this country and want our borders secure, those of us who know what the Declaration and Constitution say and support them, we can't sit silently while this is taking place. But what we have found is that the Marxists and the Islamists, they really don't want to debate us. They want to control us. And what we have found with the neo-fascists is their idea of debate is like a debate within the Klan or the neo-Nazis. That's not a debate either. We have nothing in common. Zero. Zero in common. Zero. When you root against your own country, against the Islamist Nazis in Tehran, whether you're a neo-fascist, whether you are a Marxist or an Islamist, whether you're a Democrat or a phony Republican, we patriotic Americans, we draw lines. That's unacceptable. There's nothing to debate. When you're a hater, when you're a saboteur, when you're a grifter, there's nothing to debate. But when we do debate, we want to debate with people who are intelligent. We want to debate with people who know something. We want to debate with people who've actually done something other than been in the media, other than become rich in the media, self-serving, self-aggrandizing, narcissistic. What's the debate? When I was young, I would look at people in the media who were like William F. Buckley, who, by the way, ran for mayor of New York in 1965, I think it was. Started Young Americans Foundation, really one of the great youth foundations that's still in existence. Founded National Review magazine. This guy was an entrepreneur. He was a leader. And great minds like Milton Friedman and Thomas Sowell, who's still with us, because they said things that were profound, that were important for humanity. And they loved the country, and they wanted to protect this republic. That's what we constitutional conservatives fundamentally are all about. Protecting the founding so we and the next generation can share in the fruits of such a fantastic society. And we're happy to debate with people who've done something, who know something. But we have found that the neo-fascists haven't done anything and don't know much. Self-aggrandizing and narcissistic grifters. Now is not the time for people to throw their hands in there. Can't we all get along? We need to win the day. Now, if we want to get along, I have some basic requirements. And then we'll get along with the neo-fascists. And I find it interesting that people even say, I'm tired of these podcasters fighting. So am I. I just became one, a podcaster. But what's their resolution? To allow these imposters to take over the conservative movement and destroy us? Is that what Bill Buckley did with the John Birch Society? No, I don't think so. Is that what Ronald Reagan did? No, I don't think so. Is that what Donald Trump has done? No, I don't think so. If talk show hosts, whether they're behind a radio microphone or a podcast camera, whatever they are, if they don't have the guts to defend this republic, then what good are they? What good are they? Now, that said, there are no serious people. None. In this neo-fascist cabal. None. No serious people. They don't have serious views. They lie. They're conspiratorial. They are foul as hell with their mouths. They say things that should humiliate them, that they should apologize for. Not to me, but their kids. Their kids hear what they say. They hear them drop the F-bombs. They hear them talk about genitalia. They hear all this stuff. Are they proud of their mom? Are they proud of their dad? Are they? We on Conservative Talk Radio, we don't platform neo-Nazis. We don't drop the F-bomb. We're not allowed to, but we don't. And we wouldn't. Every other sentence, like that's some kind of appeal to somebody. I think this generation, many of you have been fantastic in what you've done for this country, your family, but we have an element that is utterly and completely defective. They're all about themselves. Rather than use a platform like a podcast or a video podcast to pass wisdom, to pass knowledge, to pass substance. It could be entertaining. It could be funny. It could be a little bit outside the box. I got it. To pass it on to younger people. People in their teens, their upper teens, their low 20s, mid-20s, low 30s. To pass on information, knowledge that could be useful in their lives. That's not what they're doing. They're propagandists for the darkest side of humanity. Jew hatred, Christian hatred has no place in the conservative movement. None. It has no place in MAGA. None. Mr. MAGA says so himself. That's the president. I'll get to that next segment. None. That's not something to be debated. That's something to be denounced. There's so many cowards. You have no idea. So many cowards. I understand when you step into this. Like I told my wife 10 or 11 months ago, I'm stepping into this toxic sewer because these people are going to destroy the Trump presidency. They're stabbing him in the back. They're going to destroy the conservative movement, the constitutionalists. They're going to destroy any chance of the midterms, and they still have done grave damage to us. Grave damage to the Republican Party, MAGA, and the conservative movement. But many of these people are psychotic. Many of these people, you're not their audience. Americans aren't their audience. People in Pakistan, people in the Middle East, people in Southeast Asia. That's their audience. Over 90% of you support the president and what he's doing with Iran. You understand the mission. You understand the enemy. You're smart. You want to protect your family. You want to protect future generations. You understand. A terrorist with a nuclear missile is death. Death. You got it. You know it. That's not a game. And then they tell us that's not what we, MAGA, that's not what we believed. That's not what we voted for. Are you kidding me? What did we vote for? Did we vote for terrorists to have nuclear weapons? I don't remember doing that. Did we vote for a president to appease the enemy to the point where the lives of everybody in this country is at stake?
Mark Levin.
Making your weekend even better. This is the best of Mark Levin.
If there were an individual, the number 2, the deputy at the Director of National Intelligence Office. And this office was created after 9/11 to gather all the intelligence from throughout the federal government and to present that information to the commander-in-chief once or twice a day. to ensure that the commander-in-chief had the very best information from all the intelligence elements and assets we have to make a decision on behalf of the United States of America, to protect us. And what if you find out that the number 2 person in that office, is hostile to the president's agenda, who rejects the decisions of the commander-in-chief, the ultimate decision on when to undertake military operations, war. And what if that individual, it turns out, is alleged to have been a leaker and has been leaking information to friend and foe alike, reportedly, including to woke right, REICH, neo-fascist podcasters? What if this individual leaked the facts that meetings had occurred between the commander-in-chief and other individuals, where the commander-in-chief may not have wanted that information public? What would you call a person like that, America? Would you call them a patriot? Would you call them MAGA? What would you call a person like that, America? Wouldn't you need to determine what kind of information this person has in fact been leaking to determine if they violated the Espionage Act? Is that a form of espionage, whether it's officially criminal or not? Well, I'm basically describing a man by the name of Joe Kent. Joe Kent, who resigned today because I suspect that he feared he was going to be fired because he was a serial leaker, as the reports go, in that all-important position where he reports to Tulsi Gabbard. And apparently Gabbard was informed that she needed to do something about it, according to reports. I wasn't there. And she did not. That is, to remove him. There are literally individuals circling the wagons around this man, including the woke Reich, neo-fascist podcasters and de-influencers. And, of course, the Marxist Islamists who opposed his appointment in the first place, the Democrats in the Senate who opposed his appointment in the first place, are now praising him. Praising him. Turning him into a martyr. Furthermore, according to reports and things that I've been reading, this is a man who dabbled in white supremacy, who dabbled in neo-Nazism. I don't know that we can call him those things at this point, but there's no question that he dabbled in it. And in his resignation letter, which was written for the press, written for the Democrats, not a private resignation letter to the President of the United States, but a letter written for all those who oppose our president and oppose this war effort and who are undermining our military. A letter that no doubt will be quoted by the enemy and give them aid and comfort without question. A letter intentionally, word by word, put together to create controversy and to make the job of our president much more difficult and the men and women in uniform who are fighting these Nazi terrorists more difficult. While his defenders talk about his 11 deployments in the war and his great service as a military man. And it was. But the people fighting in this war today deserve the same amount of respect and support And this man who dishonored his appointment, dishonored himself, this man is effectively smearing, undermining the men and women in uniform today who are taking on this hard enemy. And he does a number of things in this letter. He decides that there was not an imminent threat. He, not the president, not the vice president, not the secretary of state, not the secretary of war, he decides there's not an imminent threat, thereby trying to use his former position and his resignation to destroy support for the president as commander-in-chief in this war effort. It is a disgusting disgrace. He is a disgusting disgrace. Nobody's questioning his military background and the things he did in support of his country. We're talking about what he's done now. What he's doing right this minute. He's immediately embraced. Immediately. By Carlson, by Kelly, by Jones, by Owens, by Fuentes. Immediately embraced by them and more. And how dare you question him, they say, unless you've served. I guess they're not familiar with the American system of government. We're allowed to question anybody, whether we've served or not. But even if we haven't served, we still have a responsibility to speak up for our country, our commander-in-chief, and the men and women who are in the field fighting the enemy right now, regardless of who's stabbing them in the back, regardless of the background of the person stabbing them in the back. And that's exactly what this Joe Ken is doing, stabbing the president in the back, the Secretary of State in the back, the Secretary of Defense, the CIA director, and our men and women in uniform. He has a conscientious objection, you see, to the war. But he doesn't have a right to leak if that's what he did. And if you leak classified information, we have a law called the Espionage Act that you're familiar with by now. I don't know what he leaked. Oh, I have one example of what he leaked, and I'll get to that in a minute. This is no hero. If he was a hero, he's no hero anymore. It's one thing to be a conscientious objector. You resign and you leave. Took him an awful long time, didn't it? Why now? Why not 3 weeks ago? Why not a year ago? What else does he do in this letter? He blames the Jews and Israel. You see, Israel and its lobbyists and its advocates here in America, they pressured the president. Pressured the president to go to war. I don't know, is Marco Rubio Jewish? Is Pete Hegseth Jewish? Is the head of the CIA Jewish? Which Jew did this exactly? Which Israeli official is so powerful, so influential, that he convinced the entire national security apparatus, the entire Pentagon, the President of the United States, the Secretary of State, the Secretary of Defense, Radcliffe, the head of the CIA. Which Jew is it that has this kind of power? None. There are none. None. These loathsome, contemptible, disgusting, immoral Jew haters, it always turns out that they hate our own country, doesn't it? Doesn't it? Whether they served or not. You can wrap yourself in patriotism. You can wrap yourself in your background. You can attack me all you want. You can try and intimidate me. It's not going to work. You can try and threaten me. It's not going to work. I'll always stand firm behind the United States military and this commander-in-chief. And I will always stand firm against an Islamist Nazi regime that wants to build nuclear weapons and wipe us off the face of the earth. I will always stand firm against a genocidal regime that kills 50,000 of its own people. I am perfectly comfortable in my own skin. I am perfectly comfortable with my own principles, my values, my beliefs, and yes, my faith. My faith that born another faith. I make no apologies. I am proud. Weasels who secrete themselves into high positions and leak to the media and leak to podcasters who look the president in the face every day, but behind his back, they're undermining him. Anybody who defends that, anybody who participates in that, anybody is no patriot as far as I'm concerned. Quite the opposite. Quite the opposite. Our president is a great man. He is a great leader. He's made a very difficult decision. I mean, really, it's a simple decision, but difficult because he has to put up with this. With this. With media individuals who've contributed nothing to the country. Nothing. With the Democrat Party that is defunding our defenses at home and undermining our defense overseas. He has to put up with individuals. And I'm sure it's not just this guy and others who don't have the guts to put their name to the leaks to the media. He's got more guts than you, Mark. He served 11 times. I'm not talking about that. I am talking about when you serve directly the President of the United States, you do not conduct yourself that way. If you did it in the military, there's not a commander in the United States military who would put up with somebody undermining the mission and leaking to the media, and the media printing it and therefore giving information to the enemy. There's no commander who would tolerate that for 2 seconds. The letter this man wrote, this Joe Kent, is a letter of contempt against the country and the president. If you want to resign because you disagree with a war, you're perfectly free to do so. If you want to write a letter, you're perfectly free to do so. But if that letter has as its purpose to do damage, and also to camouflage your past conduct as an individual who the president relied on for loyalty, who gave his confidence to, well, that is a disgusting disgrace. I say that as an American, a red-blooded American, whose family members have gone to war.
Mark Levin. You're listening to the best of Mark Levin.
The media keeps saying that MAGA, you, Make America Great Again, you, Mr. and Mrs. America, red-blooded, patriotic Americans, Levinites, that there's a big divide among us. There's no divide among us. Zero. We support the president. We support what the president's doing. There's a relative handful of malcontents and miscreants and reprobates whose audience consists mostly of Pakistanis and others, leftists and Democrats who love to hear them trash our country, love to hear them trash our president, love to hear them trash our military. And they have placed in strategic places in the administration some of their acolytes. And what are those acolytes doing? They're undermining the President of the United States and the United States military. By the way, I posted, I know these guys hang on the internet day in and day out. I posted a message inviting Mr. Kent, Joe Kent, to come on the radio show for an hour so I could interview him. I don't know how to reach him. He said, sure, let's go. Mr. Producer, can you open the microphone a moment? Have you reached out, attempted to contact this guy?
Correct. I DM'd him on X.
So you DM'd him on X and so forth. And have you gotten a response?
Nothing yet.
No response. Well, we will wait. But I'd love to interview him. I've got a lot of questions about things he has said, things he has done, associations he has, about whether he's leaked, who he's leaked to. Is he leaked to Carlson? Is he leaked to others? And it's what the White House is saying. He's a known leaker. All kinds of questions I have for the man. Many, many questions. This idea also that Israel dragged us into this war. Ladies and gentlemen, Israel's a nation of 9 million people. It's a country the size of New Jersey. We are a massive superpower with resources, a military. Hold on, folks. With resources and a military nobody else can possibly have. Now, there are going to be little breaks. I'm going to be taking a little early. I have a brother who's having a procedure, and it's a very serious one, and I'm quite serious about it. So that was one ring, so I'll take a little early break, just not yet. But nonetheless, I will continue. Israel didn't drag us in any. The president says it didn't. And 47 years. For 47 years, we came under attack. You know who said that? Joe Kent. 47 years. Finally, a president has done something. Dragging us into a war. They try to assassinate our president, and they're dragging us into a war. It's time to blow off these Klansmen, these neo-Nazis, these neo-fascists who are slick, who want you to believe they camouflage these really poisonous statements and America First jargon and so forth. It's ridiculous. It's preposterous. It's false. Now, here is John Ratcliffe at a hearing today, and he specifically asked by Senator Cornyn what would have happened if we didn't take action imminently against Iran. This is the head of the CIA. Cut 4, go.
If left unimpeded, yes, Senator, they would have the ability to range missiles to the continental U.S. It's one of the reasons why degrading Iran's missile production capabilities that is taking place right now in Operation Epic Fury is so important to our national security.
Mm-hmm. Okay, so Kent is wrong, and Kent was not in on the briefings for the last several months. Why is that? I want to ask him all about this. Why is it? How can you have a deputy director of national intelligence who the White House says is leaking incessantly, and he can't be in certain briefings because they're afraid he's going to leak? I think those are fair questions, don't you, Mr. Producer? How can you say one thing 3 months ago, 1 year ago, 2 years ago, and a completely opposite thing today? Well, conditions change. No. We're not talking about conditions changing. And I want to know, are you a leaker? To whom have you leaked? What reporters? I want to confirm that he was the leaker in my case with the President of the United States. I've got a lot of questions. I want on the record. On the record. John Ratcliffe again with Senator John Cornyn. Cut 12. Go.
The head of the National Counterterrorism Center resigned, saying that Iran did not represent an imminent threat to the United States. Is there anything to indicate that Iran had ceased in its nuclear ambitions or in its desire to continue to build ballistic missiles capable of threatening American troops and allies in the Middle East?
Senator, no. In fact, the intelligence reflects the contrary.
So you disagree with Mr. Kent?
I do.
I would think any fair-minded assessment of the situation, even based on open sources, would reflect the danger the regime poses to the United States.
So Mr. Kent disagrees with the CIA director, the Secretary of Defense, Secretary of State, President of the United States. So what information does a guy who's cut out of intelligence briefings because he's accused of being a leaker, what information does he have that the commander-in-chief doesn't have? What did he base it on? That there's not an imminent threat. You just heard what Radcliffe said. He's a very honorable man. I don't believe he ever leaks. So what information did he have? We want some facts. We want some evidence to back up what Joe Kent has said. President of the United States says, no, I wasn't dragged into the war. The United States wasn't dragged into the war. We set the timing. In fact, the opposite could be said, that we dragged Israel into it. What evidence does Mr. Kent have to disprove this? He's got none. But I want to give him an opportunity to present it. I want to go through his letter. I want to go through his contradictions. I want to go through whether he's a leaker. I want to know who he leaked to. I want to know if he leaked. Was it to Tucker Carlson? What about his association with Nick Fuentes? Is that okay? Is that normal? Is that MAGA? Now, Tucker Carlson knows about this because Tucker Carlson interviewed him, and Fuentes made these comments in October when he interviewed him. Listen to this. Cut 15, go.
Like, take Joe Kent, for instance. I supported Joe Kent, and I talked to Joe Kent. I got introduced to him by Matt Braynard. Matt Braynard went to my conference in 2021. He bought a table.
Was he his campaign manager?
He was.
Okay.
Or he was a consultant, but he was on the campaign, yeah.
So he was on the Joe Kent campaign. Is that what I understand, Mr. Producer? Go ahead.
A lot. He loved my conference in February 21, which he bought a table at for his organization, Look at America. And in 2021, and by we, I mean my nonprofit and myself and my team, we wanted to support America First candidates in the midterms. Like you said, authentic opponents.
Me too.
Yeah. And
that's how I found Joe Kent.
Yes. And, so
Birds of a feather. Or should I say, anti-Semites of a feather. Go ahead.
In that sort of scene, like Ryan Gradusky, I know, is very supportive of Joe Kent, and other people that are more private I don't want to name, but they put me on.
I want to name all the Nazis and all the Stalinists, but they're all backing Joe Kent. You hear this, folks? The question is, how the hell did he get the job? That's the other. I got a lot of questions for Joe Kent. Who promoted him? Who was lobbying for him? Go ahead.
In Georgia, Gibbs in Michigan, a lot of different people. And Joe Kent was one of them. And I had a phone call with Joe Kent. And I told him, I had my assistant on the phone too, who's Jewish, by the way, just because I want you to know I'm
Aren't
cool
you
like
liberal?
That.
Go ahead.
But, so I'm on the phone with Joe, and I said, look, we support you, and we want to do everything we can to help you. We want to have my followers knock on doors for you. We want to boost your social media. Anything that you need, we want to help you. I said, and we don't even want to be publicly associated. I said, because we know that might hurt you. I said, the only thing that we ask in return is you can't disavow me if the media asks. And you can say whatever you need to say, but you can't disavow.
Interesting background this guy has. He voted for Bernie Sanders, I think, in 2000 or some point. He was a libertarian, was a Democrat, then a Republican. He ran twice for the House in a Republican district, and he lost. One of the Republicans who ran against him in the primary said, I warned you about this guy. There's a whole thing here that I think we need to learn about and know about, and it's not going to happen with the woke right neo-fascist podcasters. Because you know why, ladies and gentlemen? They're trying to destroy Donald Trump right now. They're trying to destroy MAGA. They're undermining our military. They want us to lose. They literally want us to lose. Just like the Democrats, just like the Marxists and the Islamists. Tucker Carlson, Megyn Kelly, Steve Bannon. It's the rest of these a-hole names. I can't remember them all. They're rooting against us. And they weave and they bob. No, we're America first. No, we just don't think of these forever wars. They're rooting against us. The president knows it too.
Mark Levin. The Great One makes your weekend even better. This is the best of Mark Levin.
We're not done with Tulsi Gabbard. She didn't look very happy up there, did she, Mr. Producer? I didn't think so. Cut 6, go.
Was it the assessment of the intelligence community that there was an imminent nuclear threat posed by the Iranian regime?
The intelligence community assessed that Iran maintained the intention to rebuild and to continue to grow their nuclear enrichment capability.
Was it the assessment
now, let's
of the...
stop here a second. Just so you know, imminent threat is not a test that's necessary. It's one they're throwing around. They use it because they're thinking about the War Powers Act and so forth. That phrase means nothing. It doesn't even have a definition. That said, clearly there was an imminent threat. And I noticed that not a single person asking that question ever defines what that means. Never. Ever. Now, let's use common sense, Mr. and Mrs. America. If the enemy is building nuclear weapons and they say they're going to have 11 in 10 days, it seems to me that's an imminent threat. Put it on a ballistic missile. Now, they can't quite reach the United States, but they're almost there. So what do they do then? They give it to terrorists? You don't have to actually shoot a missile, you know. Maybe they'll put on a boat that doesn't look like one of theirs. I mean, there's many ways for terrorists to be terrorists, you know? And then what happens is everybody, how the hell did this happen? Why didn't anybody know? Why weren't we on the lookout? Trump was told all about this. They knew about it and they didn't do a damn thing. They didn't do anything about it. That's what you get from the Democrats and the media and the isolationists. 2020 vision when 30 million people are blown off the face of the earth. President's not going to do that. We didn't elect him. That's not MAGA. Suicide's not MAGA. It's crazy. Go ahead.
Community that
By the way, the jackass asking questions is this punk from Georgia. Ossoff, Senator Ossoff, who grew up in a very wealthy family. He had to work very hard to go to the bank and take out his checks. And he's up for re-election in Georgia. He's a radical leftist. Go ahead.
Imminent nuclear threat posed by the Iranian regime, yes or no?
Senator, the only person who can determine what is and is not an imminent threat is the president.
False.
Now, let me explain what she means by that, because this guy is obviously illiterate when it comes to matters of war and peace. The intelligence agencies present all the data that they have to the president. The envoy presented all the information he had or they had to the president. The president has to take into consideration more than raw intelligence. He has to take into consideration our military capacity. That is, what we can do or can't do in the face of a potential danger or even an imminent danger. There's a lot of moving parts in this. And so if you're a punk senator and you don't know your ass and you don't know what you're talking about, this is the kind of question you ask. Go ahead.
This is the worldwide threats hearing where you present to Congress national intelligence, timely, objective, and independent of political considerations. You've stated today that the intelligence community's assessment is that Iran's nuclear enrichment program was obliterated and that, quote, there had been no efforts since then to try to rebuild their enrichment capability.
The problem is that subsequent to that, and he knows this, Steve Witkoff said on my show, and then later other shows, he may have said it on Sean's show before too, exactly what the Iranians told him and revealed to him because they thought that would scare us off. I mean, honest to God, ladies and gentlemen, what would this guy do or these other people do? What would Kent do? Well, we know what he would do, nothing. But what would, you get this information, these maniacs, 47 years been slaughtering Americans, directly and indirectly. They get a nuclear weapon, then what are we supposed to do? What do we do once they get a nuclear weapon? There's not a lot we can do. Let me tell you something. This peace mission, I call it, this military campaign has gone on. It'll be 17 days, I think, tomorrow. Less than 3 weeks. They destroyed their capacity to make any more ballistic missiles. Now they're just trying to take out the launchers and what they have left. They've destroyed their capacity. We're trying to hunt down the locations for any of this nuclear material because they've built these. You know, the Islamists or terrorists are very, very good at tunnels and, you know, and stuff like that. I mean, if these Islamists were only civilized, they'd be very good at, you know, building subway systems and, you know, things like that. Basements for homes. The jihadis I'm talking about. But nonetheless, the Democrats have no plan, and they would tell you shouldn't do anything. Oh, I'm wrong about that. Give the enemy billions of dollars, try and buy them off, and then they use that money to further proceed and to accelerate their terrorist activities. That's what the Democrats did. Worked out really well. Yes, what was there was obliterated. And the problem is they went right back at it. And they were able to hide 22,000 pounds of nuclear material elsewhere. Elsewhere. The country's huge. It's as big as Alaska. And this jerk sitting in the Senate thinks he knows everything, and he knows absolutely nothing. Go ahead.
Was it the intelligence community's assessment that nevertheless, despite this obliteration, there was a, quote, imminent nuclear threat posed by the Iranian regime? Yes or no?
It is not the intelligence community's responsibility to determine what is and is not an imminent threat.
Okay.
That is up to the president based on a volume.
He just doesn't want to hear it. He's got his result that he wants. It doesn't matter what she says. It's all about gotcha. That's all. Cut 7, go.
The IC assesses the regime in Iran appears to be intact but largely degraded due to attacks on its leadership and military capabilities. Its conventional military power projection capabilities have largely been destroyed, leaving limited options.
So you're just listening to that, and she goes on, don't you feel a lot safer? I feel a lot safer, don't you, Mr. Producer? I mean, can't we give a tip of the hat to the president, his team, and the military? Can't we even do it? No, warmonger, neocon, no. Go ahead.
Strategic position has been significantly degraded. The U.S.-led maximum pressure campaign and snapback of European sanctions.
Well, hold on now. These are a lot of accomplishments, aren't they, Rich? All right, let me play the game so we can thank the Jews for this, right? Right? We can thank the Jews and the Israelis today. And me. It's my war, I was told. I did this. The Jews did it and the Israelis did it. Are blowing out because they dragged us into the war. Just listen to Kent. Not exactly Clark Kent, Joe Kent. And Carlson and the rest of them. So if there's enormous success, I guess it's due to me. And due to my faith. And due to the little tiny country of Israel. You see how sick and stupid this is? We're making spectacular progress. We're doing a fantastic thing that needs to be done. And the president's doing it. The United States military is doing it. In alliance with the Prime Minister of Israel and the Israeli military. The president has said that. Haig said this, everybody says that. It's not little Israel dragging us into a war. It's little Israel fighting side by side with us in a war. Or really, it's a military operation, or what I call a peace mission, because that's the goal. That's the goal. You know, you got these malcontents riding in the street, burning buildings, attacking cops. It's a peace movement. Peace movement. But of course, it's not. What you see taking place now, that's a peace movement by the United States military in Israel.
Mark Levin. We're giving you nothing but the best of Mark Levin.
Something called Notice.org. In the Trump White House, Joe Kent, and so forth and so on. Jose Piglieri and Jasmine Wright. It's a legitimate site, by the way. FBI Director Kash Patel has privately indicated a desire to make public as much information as possible about material allegedly leaked by Joe Kent, who resigned this week as director of the National Counterterrorism Center, according to law enforcement. Mr. Producer, would you open your microphone, please? Have we heard back from Mr. Kent?
I am still waiting. I sent him a DM yesterday.
Okay, we've tried. What am I, Daffy Duck? We've tried twice to get Mr. Kent on the program, including before he did his spectacular propaganda Iranian event with America's anti-Semite, America's Christian hater, America's America hater. That would be Carlson. By the way, he charged for that interview if you wanted to watch it. He had to sign up for his monthly deal, $9 a month. So I said, look, a friend of mine watched. I can't watch this stuff. It's just too stupid. He watched, and he said, guess what name was the most often mentioned, and a lot, by Kent and Carlson? I said, let me guess. He said, yes, you. Me. And the reason is, you see, Carlson is a real slimeball. So he says, I'm not attacking him, I'm not questioning him, but he wants to put a target on the back of my head. That's what he's doing. And I'm not the only one. He's attacking others, too. But apparently he's obsessed with me. Obsessed with me. So is Deep Throat, Mr. Producer. No, I won't get into that right now. I'll save that for another day. Did I just violate my own promise, Mr. Producer? I didn't say who she was, right? Okay. So I never mentioned her, did I? And I don't know what people are thinking. You know, during Watergate, the deputy FBI director was obviously leaking. Not obviously. He was outed after he died. To the Washington Post, Woodward and Bernstein. And they called him Deep Throat. And then they wrote a whole book called Deep Throat. And they did a whole movie called Deep Throat. That's what I'm referring to, of course. Anyway, let's move on. Patel believes declassifications could head off accusations. That the timing of the investigation into Kent makes it appear as if the administration is retaliating against him for quitting his post and publicly breaking with the White House over its war on Iran. The source said, look, I don't talk to Kash Patel, not because I don't like him, I do like him, but there's nothing to talk about. But I would advise him over the air publicly, openly. Don't worry about these people, Kash. They have no clout. They call themselves influencers. They're de-influencers. Nothing they've tried to do to sabotage this country has worked. And 100% of MAGA supports Trump and 0% support them. So we've got another poll in the New York Post that I'll get to in a moment. The FBI is investigating alleged leaking of classified information by Kent, according to 2 government officials. It's actually according to 4. Semaphore said 4. Once the investigation is complete, the findings will be sent to the Justice Department, which would then decide whether to file criminal charges. Now, it's very interesting. This guy, General Mike Flynn, who's turned out to be a real whack job, and he's not the only one. I know. All these people who you thought were good, who I defended personally, day in and day out. Just very, very absurd, but I can't control it. It's them. It's not us. Now, that said, they're putting things out there. He better not be prosecuted. He better not be tried. They're not saying he didn't do it. They're not saying he shouldn't have done it. They're not saying, well, let's wait for the evidence. What they're saying is, they better not prosecute Kent. So now he's immune? He's immune because he undermined the president and allegedly leaked? I'm not done with this article. Goes on. The defection of Kent, a former Green Beret commando with strong MAGA credentials. What are the strong MAGA credentials? The guy voted for Bernie Sanders in 2020. He was a Democrat. He switches to Republican. Now in 2020, he votes for Sanders. Does that mean he voted for Biden in 2020? I don't have any idea. Well, he couldn't have. He voted for Sanders. You get my point in the general election. So he's a recent Republican. He wasn't always a Trump supporter, except when he decided to run for Congress twice and lost, and all of a sudden he moved right. Now he's moved left. It set off a firestorm in Washington. Quote, I cannot in good conscience support the ongoing war in Iran. Iran posed no imminent threat to our nation, and it is clear that we started the war due to pressure from Israel and its powerful American lobby. So Bloomberg taking the bait, and not just them, they contacted us, you know. Is it true Mark Levin lobbied for the war? I didn't lobby anybody for anything. Everything I said was behind this microphone and on television. Everything. Everything. Isn't that crazy? But Tucker said it, so this guy has leaked so much to the media. They work very closely together. You think these are... No. These woke right types are very close to the media. Politico, Bloomberg, Washington Post, New York Times. Because they trade on this stuff. They want to undermine you and me, Mr. and Mrs. America. Red-blooded Americans. So these are all grifters. And they trade on this stuff. And they trade on gossip. They always say, you know, the establishment. They are the establishment. Look at the woke right podcasters. They're the establishment. They've been in the media. And by that, pretend journalists. Oh, I'm a journalist. You know, I am a journalist. He used to support taking out the ballistic missiles. He used to support. I wanted to question him. I've got everything right here, like a good prosecutor. I've got it right here. I've got my questions. I've got the documents. I'm ready to roll. And Joe Kent won't show up. Now, either his lawyer told him don't do it, or Carlson told him don't do it, because obviously I would ask him about all his communications with Carlson. Why not? Or Megyn Kelly. Or Candace Owens, or anybody else. I want to know who he's communicated with. And if he hasn't leaked, he has no problem. He can say, look, I talk to these people all the time, but I never gave them confidential or classified information. That's a perfectly legitimate answer. Maybe they're all friends. But that's not really what I'm talking about, is it? But I'm a journalist. I can talk to who... Shut up, you idiot. A law enforcement source said FBI agents had determined Kent shared secret government information with disaffected MAGA media figures like Tucker Carlson. This is what they wrote. I don't know if this is true. I want to know. I put a post out on social media all over the internet, and I said to Tucker Carlson, hey, look, just tell us. Just tell us. Did Joe Kent provide you with any government information? Did he provide you with any confidential or classified information? If not, just say no. Nobody gave me any classified or confidential information. I can say no. Now, what about him? Inquiring minds want to know. Tucker. A second administration official said that Kent leaked classified information from a server to a member of the media. Now, this is why the media is circling the wagons around Kent and around the woke right neo-fascists, because they all work together. That's the dirty little secret. I don't work with these media types. They do. And they're doing it to trash Trump. Isn't it interesting? The media, it could be Bloomberg, it could be the New York Times, whatever. They know that Tucker Carlson is an anti-Semite. They know that he's a Jew-hating scum. They know that he's a Christian-hating scum. They know that he's the front for Qatar and Iran and all the rest of it. I believe he is anyway. Certainly a mouthpiece. And yet they still work with him. They still work with him. Do you think they would have worked with Goebbels during World War II, Mr. Producer? Probably right. Yeah, why am I even asking that? Neither the FBI nor Carlson immediately responded to requests on Thursday. Why, Tucker? What is wrong with this request? Did you receive any confidential or classified information from Kent? Simple question. You talked about these texts. Now, clearly, you had texts. I talked about this last night. You had texts with foreign governments, did you? That's okay. Did you for me, my question is, focus in, like a lawyer, like a prosecutor. Were you texting the regime in Iran in the lead up to the war? During the war? Were you? They're an enemy. We've declared that they're the enemy. Were you or were you not texting with the enemy? It's that simple. Was he? He clearly was. I mean, I have to assume he was. He was trying to get out in front. Look, my texter now, it's at Farah. They're going to investigate. When you read this article, and look, I'm only basing it on public information. I don't have any inside information. I don't even want it. I draw my own conclusions and use my own rationality and experience. The guy comes out last week with a weird video. Looks like he's, looks like a kidnap video out of Sweden or something. And anyway, and you can see he's wetting himself. He's saying, hey, you know what? What? Word is that I'm under investigation. Word is that the CIA... Excuse me. I can't do that prepubescent stuff. Word is that they've been looking at my texts. Word is that the CIA released them. Word is that I'm being investigated for a FARA violation. Word is... Really? Why are you being investigated for a FARA investigation, and why would the CIA have your text? And I told you this at the time. The only way the CIA would have Tucker Carlson's text isn't because he was on their list to monitor. It's because as they are monitoring the Iranians in every way possible, because it's a lead-up to a war, and it's a war, and we need that intelligence information. I'm not violating any state secrets. I didn't say how it's done or where it's done, because I don't know what they're doing. But I do know generally that's what they're doing. Why wouldn't they? Obviously, some text came across. Look at this. What? Tucker? No, there's not many Tuckers out there. Tucker. What kind of name is Tucker? There aren't many Tuckers out there. Look at this. Look what's in this text, and this one, and this. Here's the point. Tucker knows if he texted them and what he texted them. If he texted them and said, the weather's beautiful out there, okay, that's fine. Nobody cares. But if he's texting them something else, that's different. That's different. See, this is why they hate my guts. Because I figure this stuff out, explain it to you. I explained it to you last week. I've explained it to you earlier this week. I explained it yesterday. I'm explaining it again. I mean, if the press said to me, when I said, no, talking about. So Kent went on, they write, Carlson's popular online show Wednesday, his first public appearance since his departure. On the show, Carlson highlighted Kent's longstanding view that a U.S. war with Iran would be disastrous. That's not Kent's longstanding view. Would strengthen China and the rest. Carlson framed the situation one in which powerful government figures are caught in a lie trying to silence. So Bloomberg wants to know if I lobbied the president. Now, this happens because this is a attempt to change the narrative. Look at this. Mark Levin lobbied the president on behalf of Israel. But I didn't. Everything I've said is public. 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 I certainly wouldn't have texts with the enemy. That's a fact. So I'm curious to know. Tucker can come clean. He already put out that video. That raises a lot of questions, does it not?